Hey guys, it's Matt. Although there appears to be 1,000 different things to look at, if you're driving or just listening, there is absolutely nothing to see here, I assure you. I'll try to set it to a resolution where you really can't make anything out other than the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You can't, somebody's probably trying to make out, what does it say in the middle there? It says inner Earth civilizations, and there's an arrow. There's an arrow pointing to Antarctica and the Nordics and the Pleiades Guardians and the Super Federation. It's best if you can't see any of this bullshit. Why am I the only one to kind of go back to this over and over and over again? And if I don't think this is getting that repetitive, I don't think I've said it that many times, but if it's correct, if what I'm saying is correct, it can't be said enough. Okay, for those driving or just listening, what's on the screen? You've seen these conspiracy maps, not the reality map where I'm trying to simplify all of this nonsense. Conspiracy maps that everything points to this, and there's many more of these. Go find the Corbett Report's 7-Eleven job application map that I've talked about many times. It points to all these government contractors, back around to the Rockefeller Foundation, to the Bohemian Grove, to SAIC and PNAC and all. There are others inside this ridiculous mess. There's a subset and another subset of more ridiculous messes. And the point, that's why I have the Three Bears here, the Goldilocks reality. Inside, if I just put this on the wall and took this down to the copy center and spent a lot of money and blew it up in perfect resolution, then I could just throw darts and I found, okay, this one here, I'm literally just looking at the one in the middle, just completely one is called like the Great Awakening map, one's the traditional conspiracy map, one's more sea-related. It says here, the Galactic Federation, 6th density light beings. Now, I don't know a damn thing about the Galactic Federation, 6th density light beings. It's all over the place. Obviously, guys, the movie with Dustin Hoffman, the movie, Captain Hook, it's all here, of course. It's all here. So, but I'm saying if you just throw a dart, if you were to be interested in this topic, whatever this is, the Galactic Federation, almost everything here, there will be the reality itself will somehow be able to show you, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 hours you could spend on even the most obscure. Here's the Montauk Project. It just goes MLK murder, RFK murder, JFK. Everything we've ever talked about, it's all here. And when you smush these conspiracy maps together, the opposite of the reality map where I'm trying to simplify all this BS, the point is very simple. It's basically the main premise of this channel at this point. No real world could pull this off. Each one of these is a cover-up, a conspiracy of some time, where in some cases thousands or tens of thousands of people would need to be in on it.
Well, Matt, right here, it says there's Bill Cooper, and it says Iran-Contra. These things really happened, and the moon landing is here. It really, whether it happened or it was really faked, you see, it still had tens of thousands of people involved. Okay, fine. I'm not saying each of these did not have a lot of people involved. That makes my point. No real world could pull this off, obviously. Come on. Can this, do I sound repetitive to some of you? It can't be said enough. No real world could pull this off. And if you are going to ever spend time looking at these dumbass maps, always pull in a ridiculous cartoon of Goldilocks to remind you. This can't be pulled off. Not even one of these, let alone the thousands that are here, can be pulled off with all the people in on it, unless there's something here going on in your life, in my life, in reality itself, that we just will never be able to put our finger on. It's 179 and a third degree away from what reality is presented to be, what it really is. So
It's fun to ponder, but this is ridiculous. Always, each one of these dumbass maps should come with a giant or a dumbass cartoon of Goldilocks, because it's always Goldilocks. It meaning for those that might be new here, the reality always plays it right down the middle. For anybody that dives into, oh, here's Hollow Earth. Anybody that dives into one of these rabbit holes, the reality itself, I don't know. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way to put it. I'll try to explain that if you're new here. The reality itself shows you just enough evidence to get you believing that there's been a gigantic cover up here, or things aren't what they seem, and things aren't what they seem, but it will keep feeding you. The rabbit will keep jumping on your lap and purring like a cat. It will keep feeding you and asking you to go out and find more information and more information. And it's a maze that never ends. Will you ever be able to get all the information about Hollow Earth or whatever it is? Just throw a dart. It will always keep feeding you unnaturally. It's not possible. Why isn't everybody talking about this? This is the only thing that matters is this. So the one on the right is the endless relationship. The one on the right is just C. Just what is we're going through now. And see how what we're going through now is it's just a little microcosm of the greater conspiracy chase. Here's how the WHO is connected. Oh, there's China, and the original Toronto outbreak is there, but Fauci is here, connected with the Jesuits, and I'm looking at the damn C, the Club of Rome, the Order of Malta is listed here, and 5G rollout is listed here on the one on the right, which corresponds to the countries that initially had. Okay, but this is ridiculous. We live in some sort of matrix. No real world could pull this off. I don't think I completed my thought about Goldilocks and Goldilocks reality. But first of all these old nursery rhymes and old legends, on their own, the story isn't very good. They're artificially carried through time because these old nursery rhymes and stories carry a truth, a metaphysical truth about life, existence, or reality itself. Each one on their own isn't very good. I've done this a million times, but it's fun to do. Whoever created the Goldilocks story, hey, Ted, come over here. I've got a neat story. This little girl breaks in and, oh, there's porridge, and this one's too hot, and this one's too cold. This one's just right. Oh, this chair's too lumpy, and this chair's too hard. Oh, this chair's just right. This bed's just... Whoever came up with that idea, think about it. You're going to tell somebody that, they're going to go, can I be honest with you? That sucks. Who did you expose? It's good for kids. Well, it is. Well, I don't know. Nobody's going to like it. Even in the 1700s, they didn't have no Netflix to watch. It's just not that good. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. They all kind of suck. So they're all artificially carried through time because they contain some sort of metaphysical truth. So the Goldilocks one, that's not as clear cut as to what the meaning of that is. Maybe it's whatever meaning we take away from it. She's some sort of psychopath that goes around, lawless psychopath that just goes into any home she wants, breaks in, probably rummages through people's closets, tries on clothes, tries to find your sex toys, and then she'll rummage through your refrigerator. In this case, the bears have already made the porridge. They just left it there. She just starts eating it. She's picky. One's a little too hot, one's a little too cold, and just spits them back in the bowl. Oh, this one's just right. That's the theme of Goldilocks. This one's just right. And it's to me, it is the reality itself. That's what the message I take away. Is that the hidden meaning in Goldilocks and why it's artificially carried through time? I don't know. Maybe whoever designed these things, maybe there is the designer of whoever first wrote down Humpty Dumpty, if anybody ever did first write down. Maybe it just always existed. It has to be part of reality itself. I don't know. It's what you take away from it. So in any of these, just throw a dart into any of these thousands or whatever, how many hundreds or thousands of things are listed on these maps. Every single one of them to us, if we investigate it, it gives itself away as being, okay, this is, for any first grade truth are just getting into this. Oh, okay, this is a real conspiracy. Look how this happened. Look how. So all the evidence will start being fed those that chase anything here, but it's Goldilocks. It operates just down the middle. So the reality itself is Goldilocks. So it's not going to be enough where you go to your cousin or your best friend and say, look what I found. They're always going to have an excuse. To them, it's never going to be quite enough. It's always going to be vague. Maybe those people are not the same as you. And part of reality's design is these people around us who we think are the same as us. Maybe they're not. Who knows? They're designed to never be able to see it. It goes back. I adopted a few months ago. It's a great explanation for how we need to see this. The Christian term of carrying your cross. It's appropriate in terms of our burden. I'm not trying to align truthers with Jesus. It's a good term for our burden, carrying your cross. We have to just carry this burden to be able to see all of this. And not that any of this is real, to back up far enough. That's what we're trying to do now. Back up far enough, look down from 100,000 feet like we're doing now, and get out of the muck. If you're involved in each one of these, you're in the muck. You're exactly where the reality wants you to be. In the muck, investigating, looking for more details on any one of these ridiculous pissed-on breadcrumb chases. You get out of the muck, you dust yourself off, and you look down from 100,000 feet, and you say, no real world could pull this off. Now, that's not going to convince your friend. If Tony was sitting here looking down at this, he would say, well, all of these are ridiculous. They're all conspiracies that have no basis. But we know, we've been in the muck, we've been in the bog. We know that if we look into one of these, just throw a dart, that, there's going to be incredible synchronicities and conspiracy and cover up. And if it's too vague, then the reality itself will have documented papers like Operation Northwoods. It'll leak stuff, so we have validation for chasing these rabbit holes. But if Tony's sitting next to me, he's going to go. He's not going to ever allow himself to get in the muck. He's going to say it's all a waste of time, and he'd actually be closer to the truth because it is all a waste of time. But we need to have done this. We need to have gone through the muck. I'm not validating the normie position, but in terms of the normie saying, hey, Tony, come look at these maps. Look at all of this. There's real conspiracy behind all of this. And we could spend 1,000 hours looking at this one and 1,000 hours looking at that one. He would say it's all a waste of time. And he is right. He's closer to the truth. But I'm not, again, validating the normie position, because the normie position, the normie position just returns to CNN, doesn't see any part of the trick being laid down on humanity, doesn't see any part of the darkness here that is working basically in a we call it a gigantic spiritual battle to have people give away pieces of themselves, to have people be lost and manipulated their entire lives so they never truly find themselves. He would just return. He would be right saying this is all a waste of time, but just would return back to CNN to see what Wolf Blitzer had to say. We are at the same point, but we had to go through it. We were in the bog. We come out. And we agree with the normie at this moment, saying, this is all, I hope you agree with me. How could you see this any other way? This is ridiculous. We could say this is all a waste of time. But then we say, well, wait a second. What was this gigantic trick designed to do to me? It was designed to distract me. It was designed to have me always looking out at it, to figure it out there on the screen. Never truly know thyself, never truly understand who we are, the spiritual nature of ourselves. This was designed to get me more invested into this 3D material plane of existence. This was designed to have me create my own Jacob Marley chains. We see, when you back up far enough, we have that moment of agreement with the normie. It's all a waste of time, but they go back to CNN. They're still 1,000 miles away from getting a clue, where I think we're then ready to walk out the other side of the fun house and say, okay, we've had enough. I'm not, I don't play this game. Homie, don't play that. We don't do this anymore. Now, a lot of people listening will generally agree with what I'm saying and basically see what I'm saying, but return right back to the addiction. And this is what I mean. You'll kind of understand what I'm saying. Or yeah, there's no real world that could pull all this off. I mean, anybody listening to this has been through the bog and through the muck so many years and seen the endless connections, and this conspiracy leads to another one, leads to another one. It's just impossible. All these people would have to be in on it, and come on. This is a joke at this point, all of these different breadcrumb trails and arrows and directions. But then YouTube will say, listen to Joey whoever is now going to give a hour-long lecture because he spent the last 20 years investigating the Philadelphia experiment, and he knows more than anybody about the Philadelphia experiment. And for anybody that's kind of new, that's one of the original conspiracies for anybody. The ship in Philadelphia, the battleship that was transported interdimensionally into New York Harbor, even Interface, the Interface series we've been looking at. I was destroyed. My shipmates were fused to the hull. I had to return to a body. I mean, even Interface talks about the Philadelphia experiment. That's a series we're looking at. Still waiting for the last episode of Interface. It's very interesting. But the point is, if you're then excited after watching this video to watch an hour-long lecture by the world expert on the Philadelphia experiment, then you've missed the whole point. The Philadelphia, I haven't gone through all 1,000 things we're looking at here across all these maps. The Philadelphia experiment's probably on there. If it's not, it should be on there. But every single one of these is a waste of time. There it is. I just amazingly, my eyes went right to it. Of all the 1,000 things here, I had no idea where it was. And it is right on the far left. You're not going to be able to see it. It's right below Papa Bear. It also says the Battle of Los Angeles. The Battle of Los Angeles and the legend and lore about that. It's just all ridiculous, the amount of things that the reality throws at us. So if you want to just do it for fun, but don't go back into the addiction and think that this researcher is really getting close to understanding something. It's all part of how the reality itself organizes and feeds endless conspiracy. I'm not saying that the right way. We'll never understand any more than that. It wants us to try to understand more than that. The idea is that investigating each specific here is completely a waste of time and ridiculous. To say we're never going to figure it out isn't a cop-out. To say we're never going to figure it out isn't negative. It's the most positive things of all time, because it's saying the whole reality is designed to give you the ambrosia that you chase, the succulent fruit. It's asking you to chase it. You're finally getting to a point where you're just ready to walk away, saying it can't be figured out, and it's all part of the general trick. All of this relates to what we talked about, oh boy, is it 2 years ago? Right around the time of Kobe beef. A very expensive beef that comes out of Japan is Kobe beef. Michelle Obama liked to serve it to dignitaries in the White House, and it's something like $150 a pound or something. Kobe beef, I've never had it. But during that event, remember that event? We said, or I kind of threw it out to you, I said, aren't you getting a sense here, guys, that whenever anything big will happen in the world ever again, that it will just be riddled with conspiracy? Like there can't be a major thing happen anyway, anywhere in the world, whether it be a natural disaster or a political assassination, anything. Whatever major news headline comes will be riddled with conspiracy, right? And all you guys are like, yeah, the conspiracy has to come along for the ride in this reality. Missing flight, I'm sure flight MH270 or whatever, that ridiculous Malaysia aircraft's nonsense, that's probably on this, one of these dumbass maps. Anyway, we all agreed, yeah, nothing big can be presented without ridiculous conspiracy. And we kind of presented it like nothing can be presented big ever again. But I guess that wasn't the best way of saying it, because nothing has ever been presented that was big, quote, big news in the past that wasn't riddled with conspiracy. Like, and it just keeps building on itself, like World War One. The reason for World War One, Archdick, you know who, and that ridiculous Panillo Precept was having a sandwich. Literally was sitting down having a sandwich, and the dumbass came back again. We missed him the first time. The anarchists were about to go home, and he's coming back again for another drive by with a top down. And then it gets into the was it the Treaty of Versailles? The ending of the Treaty of Versailles, the end of World War One, takes place in the quote Hall of Mirrors. The Hall of Mirrors of all places, where the Treaty of Versailles to end World War One. And then there's it's just the license plate, of course, of the Archdick codes the armistice date of World War One. And now it's even getting I'm sorry, I get a lot of emails. I forget exactly who emails me what. Somebody emails me the other day saying, Matt, have you ever thought through? And, I don't know if he said it this way, but maybe he said, you say if we really look into things and just keep opening the doors, how all of it starts to break down. Well, keep opening the doors and keep going further and further down into the detail on the trench warfare of World War One. And he made some really good points, and I still haven't thought it through, so maybe we'll do it right now. How did that work? He said, well, we always get these stories like the GIs showed up and the trenches were there, and every movie we've ever seen about, soldier cycles in and just, goes right into the trench, and even Bruce Willis interdimensionally appears in the trench from 12 Monkeys, and the trenches are like, and he's like, well, do you think they dug the trenches before anything even started? Like, how do you, if you look at World War II or anything, armies are constantly on the move. Patton's trying to go around behind Rommel and movement and charging armies, and go back to the 1700s or 1600s, charging armies, Braveheart. Isn't one always advancing and one retreating? How does the trench thing even happen? So it is another thing that it's probably, I don't think we should do it here, but if you really think it through, it probably will start to break down, as everything else does. So the point is, we said, well, can anything in the future ever be presented without conspiracy? And nothing in the past that was ever big can't be attached to conspiracy. And my contention, and just to probably get a little bit too much in the weeds here, my contention is somehow the reality continues to produce the conspiracy where potentially it wasn't there in the past, unnaturally produce it. So it's easier to take the position or to say that, no, Matt, now that we've looked at World War I so many times, we're finally understanding all the conspiracy that's associated with it, that it wants us to chase. We just didn't have all this uncovered. What I would say, it's more of a retrocausality or a Mandela effect explanation, or those that want to go into the real strange areas of reality. I would say it's potentially possible that the conspiracy associated with all these things didn't exist in our past, if that makes any sense, and it doesn't even make a lot of sense to me. But you kind of know what I'm saying. It's almost like the reality generates it as the creeps keep taking big bites of their shit sandwich. It's almost like it's a yin and a yang. Like then all the other past events have to adopt or take on their back more ridiculous conspiracy for us to notice. I know I'm getting way out there, guys, but if any of it is true, and it really doesn't matter, because the point is to get to the position we are now, me looking down at 100,000 feet at these just three of, there's probably how many of these dumb ass maps exist, and the one on the right is just what we're going through now. There's probably a ridiculously complicated map for each of the major conspiracy events, not just the 7-Eleven job application. So I'm sorry to get into that strange metaphysical conversation that I just kind of brought up. It doesn't really matter if the reality itself, even as you look back into past events, is generating more conspiracy. It's fun to talk about it. Maybe it is, but it doesn't matter. You get to the point, you look down from 100,000 feet and you say, this is ridiculous. Reminds me of that scene in the overly complicated nature of Versailles, the Marie Antoinette. It's the Kirsten Dunst movie, which for some reason I really love how they set the music to that Marie Antoinette. And all this, she gets up in the morning and all this formality and all this complexity, and she's standing there naked, and the person that's the highest rank in the royal family gets to hand her the clothes, but then somebody else of a higher rank of the royal family comes in, and then they have to stop everything and all this, and she just goes, "This is ridiculous," which I doubt. Maybe, is Marie Antoinette even a real person? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But she says, "This is ridiculous." And then the handler says, this is Versailles. Look at these maps. This is ridiculous. No, this is reality in 2021. Maybe it wasn't all here when we were born and in the 70s and 80s. It doesn't matter. It gives itself away as being faux. Nothing could pull this off. You rise up out of it and you go, that's it. I'm not giving any of these sirens on the rocks here any more of my attention. Unless you have a few that you really like and have fun with. Just if you keep reminding yourself that, this is something that wants to draw me in, and it's part of how the general reality works and does business to try to draw me in and take my energy and attention, then, we all have things that we like to look at. But, there's no mud flood is no different than the tiniest little conspiracy on any one of these ridiculous-ass maps, mud flood. And once you finally start to get this and understand this, it doesn't matter how physical something is. The Mandela-affected people would all agree with me. It doesn't matter how physical something is. Well, Matt, you can't put mud flood alongside one of these little ridiculous tag items and one of these dumbass maps. We have all sorts of pictures, and many are documented or many are confirmed true, that this whole church here, you could see that nobody would build it like this. The front of the church is, completely open, but the back of the church is surrounded by this hill, and nobody would build it in the side of a hill map. Matt, why would they go through the extra time and expense? This was mud flooded. And guess what? There's no doubt that the pictures show that. No doubt about it. I'm not arguing that. But it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's physical or millions and billions of mud float. I don't care. The reality pulls this off. Just because something is heavy, like a giant cathedral or a Kit Kat dash, it doesn't matter. To me, we live inside one gigantic Mandela effect. And for the Mandela effect triggered, all that means is reality changes and flows, and people that start to see and awaken to certain things get off the ship and they stand on the sideline. That's all I'm saying. You have to, if you're triggered but man, I don't care if it was interview with a vampire, interview with a vampire, interview with a vampire with his hand shoved up his ass. I don't care. Yeah, it does seem trivial, but that's just noticing a greater point about reality itself, the point about maybe this is no different than the Mandela effect, what I'm about to bring up, what I talked about a few minutes ago. Maybe if we look at World War I 10 years from now, there'll be another 4 or 5 conspiracies that we didn't catch. And I'm saying maybe they weren't even there. Maybe the yin and the yang, the reality is to show the absurdity on the back end to offset what the creeps are trying to do on the front end. I don't know, but it's no different. So just because if somebody shows me real pictures of mud flood, this and that, I don't care. To me, Australia isn't where it should be. That ain't a Kit Kat dash. You want to call me crazy? Then I'll get comments. Well, Matt, you've been pretty good picking out the fraud, and I've been with the channel a while, but you're completely fooled when it comes to this Mandela effect thing. I'm really disappointed that you'd fall for the psyop. Yeah, I'm just falling for the psyop. Yeah, just because you can't see it, but we see it. I guess. Yeah, this is the one area of all this. This is the one area where I've completely drank the Kool-Aid and I'm falling for the psyop. It's okay if you can't see it. We all bring different things to the table. Okay, if anybody's yelling at me and saying, "Well, what are you saying? That it's all fake?" And you should kind of be asking that. I mean, I would say it's likely all real. or not all real, of course. There's a lot of ridiculous things on the pink one that I've never heard of regarding the secret space program. And here it says Dark Fleet. Dark Fleet, offensive space fleet. Is all this stuff in the middle one, whatever this crazy stuff is. So it's not all real, but a lot of it's real. If you were in New York and you went up to New York on a PATH train to submit your 7-Eleven job application, you were there that day, submitting application for 42nd and Broad, that's 7-Eleven. It happened. Not what they say happened, but it happened. It says here, deep underground military bases. If you, like they get you, snatch you up like Matthew Broderick in War Games, and his name was Lightman, and they bring you into it. Maybe there is a dumb somewhere with thousands of soldiers and, hydroponics underneath and creating some Elysium, and for who knows, maybe that exists. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. It doesn't matter, just because a lot of this, if somebody could put you in the back of a car and blindfold you and drive you to whatever this one is, if it exists, it doesn't matter, because everybody that's associated with all of this, no matter what exists to one degree or another, and again, a lot of it here is real, a lot of it's fake, completely fake, but it doesn't matter, in my opinion, because those involved with it are minions of some kind, and that just means they're tuned exactly to the frequency of what the reality wants in order to serve the greater agenda of the reality. Your best friend could be a minion. It's not just Melvin P. Your best friend, if they defend what comes on CNN, and somebody coined the great phrase, if they're the palace guard and they just defend everything the news presents as real, and they defend political elections and everything as being completely legitimate, they're just defenders of the system and apologists, then your best friend is a minion. They're tuned to the frequency. They'll go along with whatever it says. So a lot of this, physically, if that means anything, could be real. Maybe, it talks about the council of this, the council of that. Maybe there is some council somewhere. And those minions, I'm saying they're not in on it, in my opinion, as much as they're serving the greater reality trick. I don't know any other way to say it. There's no other way all this stuff can be pulled off. Here's an important takeaway from this. Sometimes, get in the weeds a little bit, have some fun, a few laughs. Important to summarize every so often. This one in the middle, this ridiculous pink one, says the Great Awakening. So most people in this community, this is how we think. This is exactly what it wants. It's so wrong that I want to get this map on my wall. I want to print this out. Whoever made this is helping us. Whoever made this ridiculous ass map is good. They're on our side. This is exactly the opposite of anybody on our side. And maybe the person that did this, it might be a good person that was trying to help, but they're serving the system. When you put all these conspiracies back to back, oh, look at this one, look at that one, oh, the council of whatever must really be in charge, and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds must have really pulled this off. The only way this is good, and this one that says the Great Awakening, it implies it's the Great Awakening if you can see all of this happening. And no, it's just the opposite. That's the Great Deception. The Great Awakening is only possible to go back, get in your Professor Marvel Oz balloon. Where what is it? What does the Tin Man do? He lets the rope go or something before Dorothy can get on, and he actually end up helping her. See, in a dark, selfish act, he end up helping Dorothy understand it was all within her power. And she didn't even need the ruby slippers. No place like home. Just click your feet, and you don't even need the slippers. So again, is that another truth drop? In the dark ways of these minions, they end up helping us. They do. But in this thing that says Great Awakening, the only way to be awake is to go up in your your Oz Dr. Marvel hot air balloon and go up to 10,000 feet and look down at it like we're kind of doing here. Then go to 100,000 feet, look down on it, keep smacking into the firmament, boom, 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 and whatever. That's a reality trick. The endless analysis of what this is or what this shape is falling for the reality trick. It's obvious at this point. No real world can present both sides of an argument with everything they need to dig into their trenches so they never come around to the other side. And the information given to both sides is completely at opposite and at odds with, conflicts with itself. That's not possible in a real world. But the Great Awakening is going up to 100,000 feet, looking down and saying, this is all bullshit. Nothing could pull this off. No real world could pull this off. If I actually catch somebody involved in pulling this off, well, then that's happening in an unnatural fashion. They're tuned to some sort of frequency where they're serving it, whatever it is, whatever stands behind the screen. This Great Awakening, I assure you, will never give you the real information on the Great Awakening. It ain't on this chart. This chart is meant to pull you into more conspiracy. It's meant to get you to go down more rabbit holes. It's meant to show you conspiracies you didn't know existed so you could waste thousands of hours looking into this bullshit or that bullshit. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Who's going to protect, if not me, who's going to protect us? You, Lieutenant Weinman? You want it wants you going after more conspiracy here. It wants you going through each one going, well, I didn't know about this one. I didn't know about that one. The Great Awakening is going up to 100,000 feet and saying, this is all bullshit. Nothing could pull this off. The Great Awakening is just throwing your maps out, saying, I've had it. I don't play this game any longer. This is all bullshit. And just getting rid of it. And then saying, what's the opposite of studying the screen, of studying all these of George Bush, H.W. Bush's 10,000 points of light? Is that what he meant by 10,000 points of light? 10,000 stupid-ass conspiracies to chase? The opposite of that is going, well, wait a second. Why is there a whole reality here playing a trick on me? And if something here is playing a trick on me, it wants something from me. And let me examine what it wants from me. It certainly seems to want my attention, wants me to fall for the trick, wants me to chase. So that means I must have some sort of really powerful energy that it wants. So let me learn by doing the opposite. Let me try to hold on to my energy, understand who I really am, and just leave all of this behind. The reality map I presented is just the opposite of this. Exactly 180 degrees the opposite of this. This is literally the screen. In your heart-based reality, your center, your reality bubble. Extend a hand out. Extend your energy out and embrace this bullshit. Here we sing our siren song, ready to crash you on the rocks. This is the screen. But see, this is a customized screen just for us, just for the conspiracy type. See, the reality knows most people, we're not going to get into who's real or what type of incarnation or if the NPC exists. And for now, we'll just assume everybody is on equal footing. The reality knows that, that reality just has to deliver a general trick on the human being, so it never truly understands itself. And it's always looking outward for answers and outward for status and prestige and what's important in life. It knows this little tiny group, relative little tiny group, conspiracy people, whatever, truth people, different subsets, people completely lost, like the Q people and different people, and we're just as lost, but I think at least we're getting closer in this group of leaving this nonsense behind, but that's neither here nor there. The reality itself, or whatever stands behind the screen, knows that a certain group's going to kind of wake up. So they need a special type of deception. They need this endless type of bullcrap that when upon examining it, upon spending thousands of hours, it appears to be such a just cause, so worthy, so just, so important. Matt, uncovering, the shape, okay, the shape of this or that or hollow. Matt, if we could show people this, it would lead to a great awakening. That's the false breadcrumb that it's always presented. Those that spent time on the shape. I've wasted my time in some other area. I'm not saying I'm great or I'm immune to it. I wasted my time over here. We all have to see where we've wasted time and rise above it. No, if you're never, it's always going to dangle the carrot that you're going to be able to prove to the guy down the cul-de-sac and prove to all your aunts and uncles and cousins at the next Thanksgiving get together that you're right about the shape. It's always going to dangle that carrot. That's you giving energy out to the screen, but it knows some people are going to wake up. So it gives a much more sophisticated trick, which is this, a much more sophisticated deception, a path that seems more just and righteous. It is no different, as I've said a million times, than most. It can gobble up 30, 40 million people in the U.S. just with trivial Hollywood stuff. Ryan Seacrest, red carpet. Is there going to be another Star Wars? How bad is the new Sopranos? The one guy from the West Coast called it the Saints of Newark. It's like, hey, it's Newark. It's Newark, New Jersey, Newark, kept saying, and people were on him like, no, it's Newark. Anyway, how bad the Saints of Newark is. Endless bullcrap. Is it Mike? I've said this before. My one of my best friend from college, his roommate, he was an expert at the Oscars. You could say, Adam, who was the best supporting actor in the Oscars 1962? Who won it and who finished second? Oh, he could say, oh, that was Steve McQueen. And he could tell you everything. From the reality's perspective, that person is attached to the screen, falling for the general trick, and will never understand themselves. That's no different than somebody that dives in as a conspiracy person on, quote, our side, dives into any of this. From the reality's perspective, it laughs all the way to the spiritual bank. There is no difference. You have to understand, this pursuit is no more just or righteous. That is a big thing people in this community do not understand. You're getting fooled, just like everybody else. That's the basic premise, guys. For anybody that wants to hang out for another 10 or 15 minutes, let's just dive into some of the details here. Again, the main part of the video about avoiding the chase and starving the beast and all that. You know, I've said that before, and I just said it a little bit differently here, but the main point has been delivered. There's nothing but just a few laughs probably in what is going to come if anybody wants to spend a little bit more time. But it's so funny to look at. You probably can't see any of this, of course. I can barely see it. I have a Mac screen right in front of me, and I can barely see it. So, I mean, the most one that pops up here, it's here. Some of these are so ridiculous, and we spent so much time on it. You know, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Let's just get a few laughs. The Georgia Guidestones here. It says, what does it say? It's so small, I can't even see it. Georgia Guidestones, I think it says 1980, population reduction 500 million. I mean, can you believe we spent any time, and how many videos for the old guard, how many videos did we watch on the Georgia Guidestones since 2010? And I literally found it ridiculous. I could never believe, even when I didn't see things the way I see them now, how people put so much stock into that. I've had actually people come to me and say, well, Matt, your presentation about this is years ago or a year ago can't be right about this or that because the Georgia Guidestones clearly say, what? So somebody or something or erected some stones in some park in Georgia that says they're going to reduce the population or implies they're going to reduce the population, but that means everybody's going to be wiped out. And so you take what's going to happen to the world, you just take these stones, they're just all knowing. I mean, who cares what stones or what was erected in a playground in Georgia? I mean, why would anybody put stock into that? And then people will come, and one conspiracy leads to the other. They'll say, no, Matt, not just the Georgia Guidestones. Have you seen this website? I've been hearing about this dumbass website for years. Have you seen Deagle.com? Deagle says, look, it shows the population. Oh, like somebody can't put a website together. Who's this Deagle anyway? And who cares? They can't, if it serves the system or it's associated with defense contracting, they can't to get everybody to go down a false trail. They can't put a little chart out that we're meant to find. Showing the population will go down and down and down and down. A 90% culling. People would send this to me. I'm like, well, who's Deagle.com and why should I give a flying F? And why do people put stock into this bullshit? Even the Enlist, here's HAARP, okay? I'm sure if you wanted to put your camping gear together, you could go find this HAARP array or some. But you know what? No, we don't know what it's truly doing. I'm not saying it's good, but you're defending it, and I'm not there's probably something there called HAARP. But once you spending decades trying to figure out what it's doing in heating the ionosphere, I don't care what book has been written with endless detail. People have given me these books on geoengineering and the detail level, and they cite congressional reports and this meeting and that meeting. And I think I'm looking at these books, or somebody sent me one. I'm like, who could possibly, as the writer, the author, put this level of detail? It's unnatural. The amount of information you could find just on HAARP that would lead you into 10 different realms or paths to different conspiracy is completely unnatural. I'm not saying there's not something there, and I'm not defending it. You know, you don't see it as you're not so invested in it. If the ultimate is this world isn't very real, you're a timeless spiritual being, and we shouldn't give a shit basically about anything. Doesn't mean you shouldn't put food on the table for your family, but you know what I'm saying. Here's Wacko Waco. You know, to me, at a very basic level, I don't believe none of it in terms of what was presented there. They've got documentaries where David Korsh. They've got documentaries where I want to fool the bot. David Kors, we'll just call him David Kors. He's talking to his flock. But there's no microphone. There would have to be a professional. Where's so in other words, it's like they knew it was going to be a documentary because they didn't, they're going to have this sophisticated microphone that's going to pick him up perfectly from 10 feet away where the microphone is not in the field of view. If anything, he'd have this big plastic microphone he's holding, some piece of shit. He got a Radio Shack and he's trying to lay down or document what he's doing. It's like you can watch the CNN footage I put on the Free Voice video. And I talked about it. I didn't talk about it in the freevoice.io video. I talked about it in the video where I was kind of saying, hey, it's live on Free Voice. I said when Wolf Blitzer's saying, it appears the Northern War has started and the shock and awe, how did CNN perfectly position their cameras, in such a way to get exactly what the desired effect of the shock and awe? They just knew exactly where to position their cameras. So in this case, yes, I mean, I'm sure real people, whether I don't know if they're as real as you and I, but you know what I mean. It is another endless conspiracy. They were told where to point the cameras, how that worked, and as you open these doors, and how many people would have to be in on it. It somehow, in ways we don't understand, it just becomes a reality breakdown, and we'll never understand it. There will always be another door to understand. So, I mean, just this one over here, going through all this. What does it say under Barbara Bush? Oh, it says Andrew, Aleister Crowley's daughter, Barbara Bush, and the conspiracy of, Barbara Bush died and another Bush was born a day or two later. That's Barbara's, that's what my other Tony would call, that's or a sequential incarnation. And that's the creeps here. And I'm not taking that off the table. That Melvin P. and George H.W. Bush and these creeps they're potentially, by the strict definition of the word, alien, but they're not the same as you and me. They may have access to past knowledge. Tony would say they're not nearly as spiritually advanced as you are. They're a big fish in a small pond here. They appear to be great here. They want everybody to believe. They want the most powerful people here, like us, the generator people, to constantly call them names of respect, or I'm not using the right word, but they want to be called the powers that be. They want to be called elite. That's breathing life into them. Half of what they do is they run around and do their little schemes, so the generator people here actually breathe life and grant them their power. So that's a whole nother video, guys. And am I an expert on it? No, but I sit back and I observe how they operate, and you can use the Sherlock Holmes approach. They're operating this way because there's really no other potential way to describe how they're operating. So what else? I mean, Area 51. Oh my goodness. I mean, even when I was a first grade truther, I never went down that endless, absurd rabbit hole. They even in the movie Independence Day, they tried to breathe life back into the Area 51. The aliens are still alive, and in Will Smith's Independence Day. I mean, Area 51, I mean, literally something like that takes the cake. If you are still hardcore investigating, and nobody here, I'm sure, listening to this, if you're still doing hardcore Area 51 and what the government's holding back, and they drop a few, what did they drop a few breadcrumbs recently about disclosure, alien disclosure, and all that nonsense, it is the height of conspiracy ignorance. If you chase, I mean, with that being said, some of this stuff on the list, although it is all part of the conspiracy waste of time, is more seemingly righteous to investigate, or a better use of time, even though now we see it's all a waste of time, than complete nonsense like Area 51. I guess it's all nonsense, but some of it does seem a little bit more understanding truly, something happened in New York that was quite big if you were there. And understanding the nature of it, I think, even though ultimately where we need to be spiritually is a waste of time, that is more just than stupid bullcrap like Area 51. And now the stuff on the pink is just, I mean, it is nonsense. This says Mayan Breakaway Group. It says Global Galactic League of Nations, My Labs. This says a Black Project, Aerospace Corporations, Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. I mean, and then that's associated with a poster with the general title, The Great Awakening. The Great Bury You Under the Deception is what this poster should be called. If you look to this poster and decide to investigate anything on it. Let's just close with zooming in here on the pink map and just talking about the endless conspiracy associated with Antarctica. How the amount of conspiracy just associated with one topic, Antarctica by itself, is beyond what any normal world could pull off, beyond who would have to be in on it. Just one of these. And let me address this before I get into it. If anybody is looking at the pink map, which I already said is the most ridiculous one, there's some things here that may have over in our past deserved some investigation. But if anybody's saying, Matt, even when I was a first grade truther, you're talking about not wasting our time, like that's the highest level of truth. I would have never wasted my time on any of this. I hear you. But I'm making it's generally across all these maps. Most people listening to this spend a lot more time in their pursuit of truth or coming into a certain understanding of how the world works. Most of us spent time over here. And although there's, 1,000 things on this map, over here is like things that we would consider much more legitimate. So most of us were fooled over here, okay? I understand the pink map is a bit out there. But let's just it's not anybody saying, well, it's all of it is this nonsensical. No, it's not. The pink map is in many degrees, but you hear what I'm saying. I don't know if I got that out right, but let's just finish this up. Okay. Antarctica. Now, what I understand about the conspiracies associated with Antarctica doing this basically full time for 10 years, I'm not even familiar with these conspiracies. So there's 10 times more conspiracy than even I was aware of if there's any legitimacy to any of this, and there probably is. If you look into it, the reality will feed it to you. I don't know what this shit is, pre-Adamites, elongated skull giants on Antarctica, crash landed 55,000 years ago, Illuminati, NWO, advanced technology, pyramids, Nazi breakaway group, underground bases, ice shelf melting, exposing craft, Lockheed Martin covert excavations, John Kerry visits, Buzz Aldrin, Pope, Orthodox Pope visits. Okay, now, my conspiracy associated with Antarctica only matches up maybe to about a third of this. Over the years, and I don't remember every detail, but in terms of endless blogs or watching videos. Oh, there's supposed to be a portal here. There's supposed to be underground bases. No doubt they talked about the Nazis having bases, being very interested in Antarctica. Antarctica being presented as not just the barren ice shelf that it's presented. And that's probably correct. I'm not saying it's fake. I'm not saying there's nothing there. I'm saying the conspiracy that's attached to Antarctica is simply part of the general reality distraction. The main conspiracy points that I have researched over the years, and I think I was going to say these are the most legitimate points, if there's any legitimacy at all anymore in investigating any conspiracy. But this one actually still could be, if there's one legitimate list left, this might still be on there. Why nobody can just go and sail their dinghy or their rowboat or sail their boat to Antarctica, and if you try to approach Antarctica, you probably will be, like they say, turned away at gunpoint, meaning there is something going on down there that is likely hidden. So there is some legitimacy in that. Pursuing it is a waste of time. But the whole Admiral Byrd thing, which says over here, was called Operation High Jump. People, a good part of the truth community actually puts stock into, Matt, well, didn't you hear what Admiral Byrd said on that TV show? Are you kidding me? I mean, if he said something on a TV show, Admiral Byrd, he didn't leak anything as a good guy. He was meant to say it, likely meant to generate more conspiracy. Operation High Jump, there's still a good part of the truth community that puts stock like Admiral Byrd as some sort of a spill the beans or whistleblower hero. I mean, give me a break. It says largest U.S. naval defeat led to creation of military-industrial complex. Yeah, there was some alien race down there that turned Admiral Byrd's fleet away. I mean, come on. Come on. And I'm not saying I'm not holier than thou. I spent time on this stuff. I spent time on this over the years. But it just keeps feeding you. Why was a buzzed cauldron sent there, and then he had a medical issue, had to be evacuated out? It doesn't matter what part of it is real. Maybe they sent a real avatar named a buzzed cauldron there. Maybe he did go there wherever it is or whatever it is. But then maybe the medical condition was fake. It doesn't matter what part of it is real and what part of it is fake. In the general sense, in the aggregate, it is all there to draw your attention outside of yourself. The Orthodox Pope visited Antarctica. John Kerry visited Antarctica for some strange reason on the day of the election between Hillary and Trump. Well, Matt, you don't really believe he visited Antarctica? No, probably not. They could feed that news headline. He probably went to Bora Bora or something. Who knows why they put that out there? But then it just keeps spiraling upon itself. What did the Donald Sutherland character say to the Kevin Costner character in JFK movie, Oliver Stone's JFK, just before the Dealey Plaza event? The Black Ops director Donald Sutherland was ordered to go strangely and mysteriously to Antarctica, he says, if you remember that scene in Oliver Stone's JFK. So the reality constantly tying in the same sorts of conspiracy regarding Antarctica. And then you get into just questions that can never be answered. And there's no point. That's the whole point of this presentation. There's no point in trying to answer them. Somebody rising up out of their bathtub, I can hear you. Well, then what did Oliver Stone know? Why did Oliver Stone put that in? Was he visited by the Men in Black and say, Oliver, put this in your movie. Don't ask questions why. Just put this in the movie. Why? There's a link to the Antarctica conspiracy going all the way back to the JFK movie. Why? But the point is, who cares? Why? By my heel, I care not. Sure, that says Nazi breakaway group and all underground bases. I can't tell you how many videos I've come across over 10 or 12 years that had all this evidence that the Nazis were there and they had bases there, or they still are there, or there's a portal, interdimensional portals. Here it says Atlantis and Lemuria may be there. Or that's the gateway to the other part of the earth that we're not allowed to go to. whatever part of this may be, quote, real or not, doesn't matter. Just the amount of conspiracy associated with Antarctica by itself, forget the other 10,000 things here or that we've looked at over the years. It's impossible. It's unnatural. It couldn't possibly be coordinated by regular men and women working with their minions and their systems of government and the news and websites, and it's just not possible. We live in some sort of artificial matrix that operates like the event horizon, that shows you what interests you most, that shows you what the information or the topics that are most likely to pull you outside yourself, to give the screen attention and your energy. It's the event horizon that customizes itself for each type of generator being. And the idea is to stop with this nonsense and start understanding who you are and at least starving it as the first step. Thanks for listening.